All right, can you hear me okay? All right, we're all in. Okay, so today I want to talk to you about generosity. We're at a fundraiser, and of course generosity is on everybody's mind, on donating to this awesome cause. But I want to talk to you about generosity as I lived it, as I experienced it, as I saw it happen. And so the theme of this is generosity, and the title of it is that we have a God of surprises. So I want you to just envision here for a second that we did it. We're done here. This evening was an immense success. You guys gave a lot of money. Way to go, guys. Jeez, that's amazing. You guys gave a lot of money, but you also prayed for this event, and you gave your time, your resources, and some of you in this room are going to go and donate your time and volunteer and go to Peru. And you're going to be there for this next installation, and it's going to be amazing, all right? So a little bit of time machine. You're already there. We did it. And you get done with the installation, and there are a couple of kids there. One, a young lady, her name's Carolina, and then a young kid named Bruno. And then they're tagging along their kid's sister, Noelia. So you have to sit, you're sitting there with those people. You're tired, like you've already been through the celebration, and the water installation's in, and you're looking out basically at this beautiful, desert landscape. And you're wondering what to say to these kids because you got the water up and everybody's jubilant, right? We're all super happy. I mean, this is a moment, like you're in another country, and you donated your time. You came out of your shoes to be there. Some of you guys actually in this room will be there. So the question here is, what now? What do you say to these kiddos? And I want to point out that when I only heard about Vera Aqua about 5 weeks ago. I met Emeka and Jacob. Many props to Adrian Montes, who recommended me. He's here today. But I really want to just emphasize that they don't just deliver water to people and go away. They show up in person and do these installs. They teach you how to get your own water. And most importantly, the theme, their whole mission is that they want those people who get clean water to have access to a vocation so that they can do their life the way that a lot of us have already, but many of us are just starting off in doing. We have a lovely young table of very young children over there, but I also notice a lot of people in the room who are in their 20s and look like they aren't there yet. By there, I mean whatever Polly and I are celebrating being away from at the moment. With all of the noise and the children and the pattering and the squabbling over this and that and the other, right? So what's neat about this is that these guys care about what happens to you after you get your clean water. And a lot of the people in this room are Catholic. Catholics have this word vocation. I think a lot of the people who are not Catholic, who are tuned in online, as well as in the room, who are not Catholic, the vocation there is a calling. You hear that a lot in Scripture. And what's awesome about this is that this organization wants those people to have a calling. So I want to talk to you about that, what the calling is, and how to respond to it when you get it. And what these people, when you give them the water, what they get when you've made the sacrifice tonight, because you already made it. Like we're already in we're in a time machine. We're in Peru. We're already done, and we're just like, we're taking a break. Okay, so those three children they're my childhood friends. I was only 13 or 14 when I met them. They're from Peru, and they were different when they came into our apartment complex because they were from Peru. There are not many people from Peru where I grew up in Southwest Florida in Fort Myers, Florida. But there were people of every nationality, every ethnicity, every religion because it was Florida. And we have all of Latin America. We get a lot of people from the Northeast. They're in from everywhere. And so those are my childhood friends. Those are people I know. And what I'm imagining is that those three people that I grew up with, and I love those guys. Like the middle one, Carolina, she was my friend. She was my mejor amiga. And I learned Espanol like when I was in Fort Myers because we had like everybody from Latin America, like I was saying, and Spanish was really prevalent. So I want to ask the question, what do I want for them? We're sitting on this bench and we're tired. We got the water in. We did it. Like mission accomplished. So what's in it for them now? What is out there for them now? What do they get to go do in their vocation? And so I wrote up, I had to take a step back and ask the question, what happens when you've got this like provided for you? Now what do you go do with your life? Because that happened to me. Spiritually speaking, I feel like I ran out of water. Like hardcore ran out of water. I was 24. I don't know how old you guys are, and I can't read minds like Giancarlo, so I can just guess. But I was 24, and I was in Dallas, and I was sort of washed out of baseball. I was really excited about going into business and doing something in the business world. But I worked for my mom for a year, and I was no good at it, because I couldn't even get out of bed. Anybody here ever not able to get out of bed? Ever in your life? So I had it so bad. I got a business degree in college. I was supposed to be smart. And I worked for my mom for a year. I was just I just rode lawnmowers and did installations for all these fancy people out on Sanibel Island in Fort Myers. So I was out of water because I wanted to do something with my life. I wanted my life to have meaning. I felt like I was out of the conversation. Like nobody introduced me to the conversation that you ought to have. I found it in the liberal arts out here in Texas. I had never been to Texas. And when we played against the Texas people in baseball, we always just sort of laugh because it's like, look, they're cute, right? They're awesome, the Texas people. They come out here and they think they can play baseball, right? Because baseball in Florida was like a religion. It was like year-round. I played it all the time. I grew up playing stickball right in the front yard. And when we hit the ball too hard and we crashed our neighbors' houses, we had to turn around and hit lefty, right? So that we wouldn't hit the houses. So we played all year long, and Texas for me was like never anywhere I'd want to go. And I'll be honest, but I got here as quick as I could, okay? I know I had a real awful bias against it. But so one really quick thing, William Faulkner, I studied Faulkner in my literature degree. He says the only time you go to Texas is when you want to change your last name and start over. So, and that's come from he's from Mississippi, so. I came out here to Dallas, and I found everything I was looking for, and I found my vocation. But it was after some intense searching. So I want this for those kids. I want this for my childhood friends, specifically. That was my best friend, Carolina's, right? So and I dearly love that family. I just pray for them all the time. It's I want all the best for them because we all grew up in this sort of hard scrabble apartment complex. So what I came up with 5 laws. I wrote laws for this speech. These are actual laws for me. I actually live by these laws. And they're laws of generosity. And so this is what I want for them. I also want it for you. If you don't have these laws in your life, or if you know them by heart because you've already been there, I want these for you. And I want them for those people in Peru. And I want them for those young people who have vocations. I want them for the older people who haven't found their vocation yet. And I definitely want it for the people at Vera Aqua, Vera Vita, because these are some sterling people. The first law, are you ready? We got laws. I think I got 4 laws. All right, so these laws come from, I want to give back here because someone gave really deeply to me. When I came out here to Dallas, I spent 3 months somewhere else renting from some room, and then the rest of the time until I got married to Polly that I spent in the retreat house of Cistercian Monastery here in Dallas. And I was cleaning the chapel, and I was manning the front desk and everything, and I befriended the abbot there, Father Denis Farkasfalvi. And if anybody has any Hungarian chops in the room, they'll notice the Hungarian last name. He fled communist oppression. He was the abbot of that monastery very young. He was the headmaster of Cistercian Prep very young. And I wasn't, at 24 years old, and sort of a tumbleweed. I wasn't really like the caliber of person that he was used to coming out of Cistercian Prep. But I think he saw something in me that was like what was in him. And that was that he fled communist oppression. He was a refugee. He did his novitiate underground, and he had really good friends die in prison at the hands of the Nazis at first, and then at the hands of the Russians. And I felt like a refugee. I come from a divorced family. This is a thing in our culture that is very, very, very lightly spoken of, the divorce culture. But I lived it, I grew up in it, and I vowed when I was a young man never to do that again, never to go back to that. And so the first law is, that I'd like to present is the law of investment. And this presupposes that you choose somebody. In the Gospel of John, you have John, who's John the Beloved, right? And he's chosen. And the Jewish people, of course, are the chosen. It's a great television series if you haven't seen The Chosen. But John the Beloved is the chosen, and to invest in somebody, the law of investment means that if I'm sitting there with those Peruvian children, I have to know their names, I have to invest in them, and I have to take the time and slow down and learn from them. I have to change myself. So I have to choose them, and I can't do that unless I've received that first. You can't give what you don't have. So in this first law, we have to choose. When you enter a room, somebody usually stands out for you. You catch their eyes. It's the way that they carry themselves or what they're wearing. If you're Giancarlo, the magician, like you can pick things, right? Like you can read people's minds. So most of us are just going to notice somebody. They're just going to stand out for us. And their face, as you scan the room, you'll catch it every time. So I would just say you have to invest. And when you're sitting with those children, you have to invest in them and really pay attention just to them. Know their names, listen to them, listen to what they have to say and what they want in the rest of their life. The second law is the law of squandering. And if there are any parents in the room, you will know deeply what the law of squandering refers to. It's that no matter what you do for someone you dearly, dearly love, and no matter what you give them, they will squander this resource. There's no hope, okay? And I can only say that because I did. I was opposite this guy whom I dearly love. This is my best friend as a young man. The abbot there, he was really a mentor to me, but he just, the way that Jesus says that I call you now my friends, he was that kind of friend. And he invited me to Thanksgiving dinner. It was a turkey trot day, and I was trying to get back in shape, and I trained too fast, and I hurt my foot, and it sort of threw off the day. And I was like, it's okay, I got done with the race. I'm going to eat lunch at this my friend's house, and I missed the Thanksgiving dinner because I had the wrong time in my head. I was in the retreat house, and we always ate after everybody. So I was thinking 7 o'clock. But they go to prayer at 6 o'clock or something. It's like an hour before. And so when I walked into the kitchen, the refectory, I ran in, and he was just coming in out after dinner, after prayer, after everything. And I started fumbling through some sort of excuse. And he just said, he put his hand on my shoulder, and he looked at me, and he goes, "Stop. Just say sorry so I can forgive you." It just leveled me because I was so full of excuses. I didn't want to be that guy who messed up something where this guy was investing so much in me. He had chosen me, right? So I totally squandered the time that day. Your children are going to squander everything. And these people in Peru, even though it's going to be an immense help to them, they will initially, some of them squander the gift badly. And so in this law of squandering, you just do it anyway. You're familiar with Mother Teresa saying that, do it anyway. Just pour into your children anyway, no matter how badly they squander it when they grow up. Don't count the cost. So the third law here is it's the law of wedding. So at a certain point, Patrick, I think, mentioned Tobit, theology of the body. I like 2 weeks into being engaged, we listened to the theology of the body. Christopher West came through town, and the concept of the spousal meaning of the body came through, and it just completely leveled me. Like, it was like reading all. It made so much sense for me. I had so deeply invested in that after that. But it's the trick here that I did after that was whenever I thought of anybody being a means to an end or possible to be used, I did this trick where I put that person in a wedding and presenting them to the Lord in heaven. He's calling all of us back, and that's basically the meaning, right? So if I look at, I travel a lot. I'm in consulting, in Aqueducts consulting. I'm around a lot of people. I do the social media thing and everything. And what I vowed, this is a trick for anybody who's mid-20s going into your career, is that if I ever was out and I was tempted to, in any way break vows on my marriage and act not in accord with those vows, that I would just get on a plane and go home. That it wasn't worth it. It's like, what in the heck is the point to earning the money when you don't have anybody to share it with back there at the family? And so it's the law of wedding. At some point, those people you're talking to in Peru, they're going to get married, or they're going to have a vocation and they're going to get married to the Lord. So you have to picture people this way in order to be generous. It's the law of wedding. And when I got married, it's sort of nerve-wracking to be in front of people right now. I'm nervous, because I have to speak and I have to remember how to speak words. It says it's a speakeasy, but it's like I sort of speak hard. So when I was up there at my wedding, I got to show everybody, the whole world, what I was about and what I wanted to do with my life. It was the best day of my life up until then. After the children came, of course, that was pretty amazing. But up until then, it was the best day of my life. And Father Dennis was there, the abbot of the monastery. I didn't know he was there because I didn't know he was going to make it. And he sat there and he looked at me. And he said afterwards, he was moved. And he's such a lion of a man. He helped, found those institutions. And to have him tell me that, it was just moving for me to hear it. I just want to point out that at some point, you're going to be in the audience, and you're going to be looking at those people you helped in Peru, and you're going to be moved. I'm going to get through the rest of this. I got to pause here every once in a while. And the last thing about the law of wedding is that the passage about the woman at the well, at some point you're going to help somebody, and that person's going to turn around and tell the entire town, this person told me everything I've ever done. Not Giancarlo, because he did the same. All right, so that's the law of wedding. And then the last one is called the law of surprise. And if you're going to help this person, if you're going to give advice to my childhood friends who are in Peru, who haven't lived their whole life yet, but they're getting into it, the law of surprise. And this is the best tip I can give you if you're young especially, but it also works for everybody else. And that is that you need to surprise God. You need to surprise him with your level best. If you're trying to figure out which career path you're going to take, if you're trying to figure out whether or not to get married or to go and pursue a vocation in the priestly life or the religious life, stop thinking that there's a right answer and a wrong answer. There isn't a right or a wrong. There's only your best surprise that you can level at God. And that's it. That's how you make decisions. That's how you determine your vocation and choose it. And that's how you stay married. That's how you grow a company. And that's how you grow a large nonprofit Montessori school. It's also how you grow an organization that delivers clean water and sanitation to the whole world. Is that you just surprise God to the point where you knock him over. And here's the other side of that law. He's not to be outdone with generosity. That's what our priest said at our wedding in the homily, that God is not to be outdone with generosity. Polly and I crept up on him, got engaged, arranged the entire wedding, and we tried to surprise him. And then he just walloped us with everything that was going to come after. Our 6 children, our Montessori school with 140 children in it, with 3 locations in Irving. A big Oktoberfest celebration that draws over 1,000 people to my backyard. He totally surprised us. He surprised us with the children that we have who are not the children we were expecting or suspecting. Talk about a surprise. And the last bit about that law is that your generosity lives forever. And here's the best part about it. If you were to die tomorrow, and I don't want any of you guys to die tomorrow, but if you were to die tomorrow, your generosity now and every single day of your life, sometimes when you spend money, the money's gone and you usually have something in exchange, an experience or an asset. That's very business-like. But in this case, when you're generous, it never goes away. The world is forever changed. Your generous decision to get married or to have children or to help somebody in Peru, it completely changes the world forever. And this, my Father Dennis, my mentor, the abbot of Cistercian, he passed during COVID. I knew everybody was worried about him because he had had underlying health issues, and he had weathered everything, heart issues, you name it. And he passed during COVID. The surprise, he had given a homily that says that the main burden of the whole homily was that our God is a God of surprises. And it was on the assumption of Mary into heaven. And she didn't know what she was going to expect. She just said yes. Over and over again, she said yes. So on this law, I would just encourage you on the law of surprise, just say yes. And be surprised when you get there. All right, so last thing. Guys, this is the moment to be generous. That's my exhortation. That's my invitation. If I knew every single one of you, I would sit down with you personally and I would deeply invest. But that's not how it works. You guys have to do that with one another. I will do it with probably just a few people in my life. You're going to do it the same way. The way that God set it up when he came into the world was that he made certain that the next time you heard about him was from somebody else. He made certain of that. The disciples were really confused on this point, that the next message and all of the message was going to come out through them. So I would like to exhort you to be generous this evening and be generous in your lives. I can't wait to see what you guys do, and I hope it's a huge, huge, huge surprise. So to wrap up, this is an ad hoc thing. It's something that we do in the Catechesis of the Good Shepherd, the atrium at our Montessori school. I am going to not represent this lesson very well because the ladies do it, the catechists do it so much better in our school. But there's this, we've been talking about water all evening, and that's been on my mind for 5 weeks since I heard of this organization. We do this exercise with the children who are only 3 years old and younger in the catechesis, 3 years old to 6. And the idea is that it's the part of the Mass, the Catholic Mass, where there's water that's dropped into wine. This whole time that we've been thinking about water, the immensity of God is that of all of these conversations, what we're dropping in is only our contribution into that immense well of divine presence. The children in this exercise have never heard this exercise before, And they are asked questions like, what do you think the wine is? And what do you think the water is? And at 3 years old, this child is able to identify that the wine is God and that the water is us. And at 3 years old, they're able to identify, how big is the wine? It's really big. How big are we in comparison to the wine? We're just a little bit. And the last question is, what happens to the water after it's dropped into the wine? And at 3 years old, that child's capable of knowing for sure that you can never take the water out of the wine. You can't ever disintermingle it. Okay? I'm positive that's not a word. So this is not my presentation. It's so beautiful. My children know that. My children know that. And they're not going to grow up in a spot that I grew up in. And I want that for all of those children in Peru. And I want that for you guys, for your kiddos, and for everybody at the Vera Aqua organization. Thank you guys so much for this. I have enjoyed preparing for it. I really enjoyed looking out at the sea of people gathered here, and I hope you guys are super generous for the rest of the evening and the rest of your lives. Thank you.